Hello boys and girls, today we're going to be working with polygons. And a polygon is a shape with many sides. The prefix poly right here means many. And the suffix gon means sides. And today we're going to be working with shapes of many sides. If you want to know whether you're truly working with a polygon, there are two main things you need to look for. The first thing you need to look for is for a closed shape. All lines must be connected with a vertex. The next thing to look for to make sure that you're working with a polygon is that you need to look for a shape that has 3 or more sides and they must be straight. For example, that shape there is a polygon because it has 1, 2, 3 sides and because it's closed, there's no gaps between it and all the lines are straight. If you do this, kind of like a cone, that would not be considered a polygon because even though it's closed, there's no gaps between the lines, it does not have straight sides. This side right here, because it's curved, makes that shape not a polygon. And if you have something like this, that is not a polygon because a shape must be closed. So it's missing a line here, and because of this little spot here, it would not be considered a polygon. So the only one that is a polygon is this one. Now if you have a shape like this, this shape has straight lines and it's closed. So this one is a polygon. To be categorizing our polygons today, boys and girls, we're going to be focusing on their attributes. And an attribute is things that describe the shape. Let's go ahead and write that word down. We're going to be working with two main categories of attributes. When we're working with shapes, the two main things that we look for are for their lines and their angles. Do you know how many lines there are and how many lines, different types of lines we're going to be working with? There's 3. And you are already familiar with them. The first one is a set of lines that never touches. What are these types of lines called? If you were thinking parallel, you're right. The next set of lines that we work with when we're working with shapes are the ones that cross like a T and form 90-degree angles. Do you know what type of lines those are? These types of lines are called perpendicular lines. And the third type that we work with are the ones that cross in the form of an X. these types of lines make acute angles here and obtuse angles there. These are called intersecting lines. So we're going to be working with 3 types of lines as we're diving into our lessons with geometry and shapes. And then the angles. Do you all know how many angles we're going to work with? We're going to work with 3 types of angles. The first one looks like this. Forms an L. What is that angle called? If you said it was called a right angle, you're right. Because it's right. But not because you're right, it's right. But it's right because it's called a right angle. The next one that we're going to be working with is a small one. What is that angle called? It's the baby. It's cute. It's called an acute angle. Another way of remembering this one is if you turn your page like this. An acute angle kind of makes the letter A for acute. So that's a good way of remembering that one. And then the last type of angle we're going to be working with is the one that's big. More than 90 degrees. This one is called an obtuse angle. And we're going to be using these angles and these lines to categorize our shapes that we're going to be working with. For our notes for today, boys and girls, you are also going to be needing, and you should have with you, this handout. What you're going to be doing with this handout, boys and girls, is you're going to be cutting it, well, not literally, you're going to be folding it in half. Just like that. Now I want you to go ahead and open it. Take your pencil and make a line right through the crease. And then I want you to take the edges and close them. And we're making a trifold. Just like that. And inside of our trifold, we're looking at 2 types of shapes. Some that look like the ones we normally see in posters in math class, and some that look just a little bit irregular. We don't see them very often in our posters in math class. Here we're looking at polygons. They all have closed figures. They all have straight lines, but these ones on this side are called a particular thing, and these on this side are called something else. The ones on this side, the ones that we normally see in our math classrooms posters, these here are called regular polygons. What makes a regular polygon is 2 main things. The first thing is that all sides have to be congruent. And the second thing is that all the angles have to be congruent. And again, these are the shapes. If you open it up, you should be seeing the shapes that we normally find in our math class posters. And then we have these, the ones that are a little bit different. We don't see them all the time. These shapes are considered irregular polygons. And there are two main things that make an irregular polygon an irregular polygon. The first thing is that not all sides are congruent. And another thing is that not all angles are congruent. Let's go ahead and look into our regular polygons, because you need to be able to tell the difference between a regular polygon and an irregular polygon. Okay, so here we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of polygons that are regular. This one right here, the first one, is a polygon that has 1, 2, 3 sides, and all of the sides are the same size. And then it has an acute angle here. It has another acute angle here. And it has another acute angle here. So this shape that has 1, 2, 3 sides also has 1, 2, 3 acute angles. All the angles are the same, they're all congruent, and all the sides are the same, they're all congruent. What is the name of this shape? If you said that this is a triangle, you're almost right, because this is a special type of triangle. This is called a regular triangle, because all the sides are congruent and all the angles are congruent. Let's look at our next shape, this one right here. This shape has one obtuse angle. That one also is obtuse. If you look at this one, looks like it's more than 90 degrees, also obtuse. This one, more than 90 degrees, also obtuse. And then this one, more than 90 degrees, it's also obtuse. So it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 obtuse angles. And when we look at the sides, this one is the same size as that one, which is the same size as that one, which is the same size as that one, which is the same size as that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 congruent sides. So this shape has 5 congruent sides and 5 congruent angles. Which is a shape that has 5 sides and 5 angles? If you said it's called a pentagon, You're almost right, because it is a pentagon, but it's a special kind of pentagon. It's a regular pentagon. Regular pentagon, because it has congruent sides and congruent angles. Now let's look at this one. This shape here has a right angle there, a right angle there, a right angle there, and a right angle there. And this side is the same as that one, which is the same as that one, which is the same as that one. And I know you're already thinking of a name for this shape. What is the name of the shape that has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4 angles? The name of this shape, because we're basing it on the number of sides, this is called a quadrilateral. Called a quadrilateral because quad means 4, lateral means sides, so 4 sides. Yes, it's a square, but a more, or I guess a less specific name for it would be quadrilateral. And because all the sides and all the angles are congruent, this is called a regular quadrilateral. Moving on to this one here. Obtuse angle there, obtuse angle there, obtuse, 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 and obtuse. And if you look at this side, it's the same as this one, which is the same as this one, which is the same, the same, the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 congruent sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 congruent angles. What is the name of the shape that has 6 sides and 6 angles? If you're thinking hexagon, you're right. But because all the sides are congruent and all the angles are congruent, this is a special type of hexagon. This is a regular hexagon. Moving on to my last shape here on this side. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides that are exactly the same. Obtuse, 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 more than 90 degrees, more than 90 degrees, more than 90, more than 90, obtuse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Which is the shape that has 8 sides and 8 angles? If you're thinking octagon, you're right. But remember that because all the sides are congruent and all the angles are congruent, this is a special type of octagon. It's called a regular octagon. Now that we know why regular shapes are called regular shapes, because they have congruent sides and congruent angles, you have to have both to be considered a regular polygon. And now that we know the name of the shapes based on the number of sides, we can look over here at the irregular polygons, the ones that we don't normally see in our posters for math, but they are very important in math. Let's look at these shapes. This shape right here has a congruent side there because that side is the same as that one. and there, that one is the same as that one, and that one is the same as that one. All the sides are the same. What makes this polygon an irregular polygon is the angles, because right here I have an acute angle, but right here, more than 90 degrees, that one's obtuse. Acute, obtuse. Acute, obtuse. Acute, obtuse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see, let me recount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, which is a shape that has 8 angles and 8 sides. If you're thinking octagon, you're right. But this one, because the angles are not the same, would be an irregular octagon. Now let's look at this one right here, the triangle. We're very familiar with this shape. We use it all the time. Let's look at the size of this side. Pretty small. Is this side the same as that one? No, it's not. And to represent the difference, we're going to write a different amount of tick marks. I'm going to put 2 because I can't put 1 because it's not the same size as this one. Now let's look at this one. Is this side the same as that one? No, so I can't put 1 tick mark. Is this side the same as this one? No, this one's just a little bit bigger, so I can't put 2 tick marks on it because it doesn't have the same amount as that one. It gets its own number of tick marks because it doesn't have the same as the other ones. Now let's look at the angles. This one here looks like it's a right angle. That one there is acute, and this one here is also acute. This triangle doesn't have any sides that are the same and only has 2 angles that are the same, but not all of them are the same. That is why this triangle is called an irregular triangle. Moving on to the next shape. That one right there. Very irregular. Just by the look of it, you can't really name it because we're not 100% sure. But by counting the sides, we'll be able to name it by the time we're done. This right here, this angle right here is acute. This one right here, obtuse. That one is acute. Obtuse, acute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles. This side is not the same as this one, so it gets different amount of tick marks. And let's see. Is it the same as this one? I think it's a little bit smaller. So this side is not the same as that one or that one, so it gets a different number of tick marks. And then this one's a small one. It's not the same as those two. Also gets a different number of tick marks. And then this right here, this little one right here also gets a different number. So then I'm looking at a shape that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides, but they're not the same. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 angles, and they're not the same either. This type of shape here, because it has 5 sides and 5 angles, is called a pentagon. But because the sides and the angles are not the same, it's called an irregular pentagon. Moving on to this shape right here. This shape here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, and they all seem to be about the same. The sides are the same. But the angles, if you notice, this is an acute. This one's obtuse. That one's also obtuse. Obtuse. Acute. Obtuse. The angles are not the same. And remember, for it to be considered a regular polygon, all the angles need to be the same and all the sides need to be the same. And here, because of these two angles here, that makes this shape an irregular shape. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. What is the name of the shape that has 6 angles and 6 sides? It's called a hexagon. But because not all the angles and not all the sides are congruent, it would be an irregular hexagon. Moving on to my last shape. These two sides look the same, so they get the same amount of tick marks. This one does not, and neither does this one. Different amount of tick marks because they're not the same size. This here is a right angle. That there is also a right angle. Obtuse, acute. Not all sides are the same. Not all angles are the same, so I know I'm looking at an irregular shape. And all I have to do is count the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the angles 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the name of the shape that has 4 sides and 4 angles? It's called a quadrilateral. But because not all the sides or the angles are the same, this would be an irregular quadrilateral. Okay, boys and girls. We've talked about polygons today. We talked about naming shapes based on their sides and their angles. So we are looking at 2 types of shapes today: irregular polygons and regular polygons. Make sure you keep that in mind as you're working on your independent practice. You can go ahead and turn your page on your notes for your attributes. Take your glue. Go ahead and glue down this page here. And now, boys and girls, you can go ahead and get started on your independent practice.